Okay, great, cool. Okay, my name is Jay Wall, and I'm from Studio J Wall. We're a social impact communication design studio. Helene is my colleague, and I'm really honored to be here speaking. I know there's a lot of brilliant minds and passion in the room, so I'm humbled that you're interested in hearing what I have to say. So I want to talk to you about design for public engagement. Specifically, I'm going to talk to you about one project, and to get going on that, I'm going to start with a video.
Feels just like yesterday. Now you wouldn't believe it. All grown up. I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah, I remember DT. Used to be tiny compared to me. Then all of a sudden, one summer, they were like twice my size.
It's actually DT who got me into cycling. Being around DT, who's active all the time, you can't help yourself but get motivated to get on and ride.
DT always made me feel included and made sure that I was safe when I went out to play.
I really appreciate DT's great parties. It's a gift bringing people together like that.
DT moved pretty fast. Always something new on the go. Though, wasn't always good with transitions.
Yeah, DT didn't always take my advice. You know how they are when they're young.
You know, it's not always easy growing up fast. We all go through those awkward moments, but DT's really doing well. I'm so proud.
As DT's counselor, what's your advice at this important time?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Play well with others, include everybody.
Get outside, get involved with your community.
My advice for DT, be aware of the steps we all need to take.
Remember that kids live down here. We need places to play, and some of us have early bedtimes.
Keep bringing us together, DT. You're so much more than just tall buildings and banks.
And DT, don't lose your pride. Let us all be proud.
You got a reputation for yourself now, so it's important that you stay humble.
Remember, DT, bikes move people too.
And don't forget to keep investing in transit.
Downtown Toronto is growing up. What's your advice? Tell us at toronto.ca/TOCore.
Hey, DT, it's JT. I've got some good stuff for you. Keep your pride. Places to play. Families really like your parks. Bike lanes. Something from Drake. Anyway, downtown, your future is looking great. I'm really excited about your next phase. There's so many good things happening. Just keep on.
So that's a fun, cheesy video, and I want to take you back to where that started. So downtown Toronto is growing ridiculously fast, and it's actually a success of planning policy. And over the next 25 years, we're set to essentially double the population living downtown. There's tons of jobs, 800,000 people downtown every day. Only about a third of those actually live downtown, so there's a lot of people commuting downtown, and it's growing really fast. And with that comes a lot of challenges, as I'm sure you're all aware. So there's a city planning study called TOCore, and it's looking at this area of downtown, bounded by Bathurst to the west, on the east side, the Don Valley, the north, kind of the Davenport and the train tracks, and then to the south, the harbor and the islands. And in the spirit of today being National Aboriginal Day, I want to acknowledge that this land is traditionally the territory of the Haudenosaunee and, sorry I said that wrong, Haudenosaunee, and most recently the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. And so through the TOCore City Planning Study, the City of Toronto's City Planning Division is looking at, as downtown is growing really fast, how can we ensure that it's a good place to live, a good place to work, to play, to study, etc. And so that includes looking at things like the built environment. How are we, where are we putting up office towers or parking spaces or bike parking spaces, and places to live in the midst of this area that's already super dense. And we also have to look at things that just make a good quality of life, so parks and public spaces, soft infrastructure like community centers and libraries. So if the city is going to arrive at some good planning policy to guide the next few decades of downtown's growth, they want to make sure that it reflects the needs of real Torontonians. And this falls under the City Planning's Growing Conversations initiative. And through that, they aim to be they want to make Toronto the most engaged city in urban planning issues in North America. So super ambitious goal. Last year, as part of that initiative, we worked with City Planning and our friends at Soren Facilitation and Urban Strategies and Maximum City and a team of young consultants to identify barriers to engagement, specifically youth engagement in city planning issues, and then to come up with a list of recommendations and actions for how that can be better. And so that was the youth engagement strategy, and it's been one of the things that's been guiding our work through this project. This project I'm going to show you and walk you through, I want to acknowledge like the tremendous team behind this. This is like way more than Studio J-Wall. So there's the city planning team. The project is led by Spurn Facilitation. And then we're also working with Maximum City, Urban Strategies, Canadian Urban Institute, Environics Analytics, and Youth Engagement Team. Super broad team. So TioCore has been, the study's been on for a little while, and we got involved last year. We wanted to gear up for this public engagement campaign, a series of public engagement activities, but also timed strategically with communications outputs to get the public's input at all these critical moments. And one of the first things we did was designing a simple word mark for TioCore, and evolving around this a huge visual language, including a color palette, selection of fonts. We want to make sure it's engaging and also consistent, really have a strong brand. And part of that includes a whole bunch of illustrations like this. So we landed on this tagline, "Downtown is growing up, what's your advice?" as a way to make this message accessible and engaging to the average Torontonian. Along with that, we have a whole bunch of illustrations. This is one of the most commonly used illustrations through the campaign. It's basically showing all kinds of different elements of downtown, not trying to capture one particular point of view. It's more of a collage and sort of thinking about the future and all the things that downtown needs to accommodate. And this, and through all the illustrations, our team worked in collaboration with Nash Paul D'Souza, who's an illustrator. That video that we just watched a few minutes ago, that was produced with our friends at Adjacent Possibilities. And that was a tremendous effort because we wanted to get a lot of different voices represented from Torontonians and including some public servants and elected officials. A lot of different perspectives to balance in writing a script and producing a video that was going to engage a broad audience. When we launched the video to kick off the campaign in April, we timed that with a large social media campaign and a blitz of public events. And we used this hashtag DTAdvice, so downtown advice, to ask people, what's your advice for downtown? Through posting on social media and having things in real life, you were driving people to the website saying, we want you to go here and answer these questions or give us your input or get involved to help shape the vision for downtown. As you can imagine, there was mixed responses to the video. Many people applauded the city at making great efforts to do something engaging. Others were really critical of the cheesiness, and for us, we thought that was a strong point. We were using a lot of a bit of Canadian Torontonian humor, making fun of ourselves, and there's a lot of Toronto jokes in there. And so we wanted to really make that playful and be provocative, which it was. And so within a number of days, the campaign was picking up a lot of traction. DTAdvice was trending within the first day on Twitter. And that's all meant to drive people to the website, toronto.ca/TioCore, where there's a video, and you can learn more about the campaign, including things we have these 7 different building blocks, which are basically the different categories of things that we need to think about to make a downtown great for everyone. So that includes buildings and neighborhoods, that's more like the built environment. We have parks and public spaces, mobility, how we get around, community facilities like schools, libraries, community centers, economy, especially looking at how do we maximize the certain industries that represent a lot of potential for downtown. Water, energy, these are things that like aren't so attractive that not everyone thinks about. You know, there's a lot of hot button issues like streetcars and transit and parks and jobs and condos going up. But we often forget about the hard, less sexy infrastructure like pipes. You know, like the expectation that like you're going to turn on your tap and water's going to come out of it. That's something planning needs to think about when we're developing policy for the future of downtown. This is just a little close-up at some of the couple of these illustrations, and each of them comes with a question, sort of provokes some thought and feedback. For example, Parks and Public Spaces asks, how might we improve parks and public spaces as downtown grows? And under the mobility building block, we ask, how will people walk, cycle, and take transit to travel to and around downtown? We also had some fun coming up with timely memes for social media. So we capitalized on the Drake Views meme that came out when his album dropped a couple months ago. We dropped him onto our illustration. And city planning, they've been really great playing along with having like a fun, engaging campaign. So like, I'll come up with this graphic, send it off to them, and they'll come up with something like, be like Drake, share your views of downtown and the six through the CioCore toolkit. Again, similar humor to the video, we're aware of that. But we're pushing to reach an audience of people who aren't normally engaged in city planning issues. Through the website, there's a whole bunch of ways that you can give input. There's an online survey, there's email newsletter you can sign up for, text messaging, you can find out about upcoming public events. There's also this interactive map that was created by Gale Architects Studio and Social Pinpoint. And this basically asks, what are your favorite spaces downtown? And what qualities do you like about those spaces? Like, why are they your favorite? And also, what are the places that you don't love so much? How can they be better? And so through this participatory map, you could go on and leave some feedback about different sites. This map is wrapped up as they're now moving on to other elements of the CioCore public life study. But there's a lot of takeaways from this that are going to drive the rest of the campaign. You can also sign up for text messaging. If you have your phone, feel free to do this right now. You just have to text CioCore to 393939, and then you'll be added to a list, and you'll get occasional blasts when there's an upcoming event or if there's a particular question that the city wants to ask you. So through all this, the big challenging question we're wrestling with is, how do we make sure downtown is great for everyone? You know, thinking about the last few years in our previous municipal leadership, there was a lot of a divide of suburbs versus downtown, this kind of person versus that kind of person, and we want to make sure that everyone around the city represents and everyone in the city understands the value that downtown can offer to different people, but we also acknowledge that it needs to do better for everyone. And so through this campaign, we're asking all kinds of different people. We want to make sure it's not just the usual suspects of people who are engaged in planning. And so to support that, our team at Swerin and the city and Environics Analytics looked at a whole bunch of data. And so this is like a mess of data that I'm not going to walk you through, but we thought, what if we came up with a bunch of different avatars, personas of the different kinds of people who might need to live or work or play or somehow have something to do with downtown. And through the stories of these people, figure out how we can better meet their needs. And also to provoke us, to make sure we're taking an inclusive process and inclusive frame of mind to this whole thing. And so with our partners at Environics Analytics and Swerin and the city, they identified a whole bunch of different major demographic segments. And with that, there's like, that tells us like in very like broad strokes who some of the like most represented kinds of people are. for example, you might have like the white middle-aged homeowner who like lives in East York and comes downtown for work. Or you might have the 60-year-old immigrant from the Middle East who comes downtown a couple times a year to visit their kids. Those kinds of things, and under all that, there's a lot of data. But the problem is with this, there's a bit of a data gap. And so if we're only looking at these major segments that are represented, we're missing out on lesser, like on underrepresented populations, especially vulnerable populations. So, you know, if we identify, let's say, 16 different kinds of people, personas around the city, you're probably not going, demographically, you're probably not going to end up with a trans person who represents a vulnerable population that we need to think about downtown. And so there was a bit of a science and an art to this. We said, okay, we're going to take these key demographic groups, we're also going to add some vulnerable populations that are really important to consider, and put those together because they too come with their own set of data. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to the 16 TO Core avatars. So these are 16 personas of different kinds of people around the city who experience downtown in all kinds of different ways. And so, for example, you have people like Sajith. He's in his 60s. He lives out in Etobicoke. He drives a cab, and he's concerned with downtown, the congestion and what that means for his job. You have folks like Ruth. She's a recent grad who lives in the Annex. She loves to bike everywhere. She works at a nonprofit. And she wants to make sure that downtown is a sustainable place and inclusive, especially. She's also concerned about the vulnerable populations as we are. This is Amina, who is a 12-year-old refugee. And she actually hasn't been downtown yet. She's heard about it from her mom, who works a couple jobs downtown. But she's just new in the country and she's hoping to make friends. This is Jo. Jo is an 18-year-old trans woman who spent a couple years on the streets after being kicked out of her house as she was transitioning, struggled to find work. But because of some of the supports she's found downtown, things are actually looking up for her now. And so she's a bit of a success story, but she also has her own concerns about the future of downtown being an accessible, inclusive place. This is an example of the kind of stories that we came up with through these avatars. So we took data and then we wrote a human story to support that. The idea is we want to make this the data engaging and accessible and also personal. You know, we're more compelled by people's stories than just a set of data. And a couple more reasons for this that I alluded to earlier. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about all the different kinds of people that experience downtown in different ways. And we also want to provoke you to think about your own relationship with downtown. So through the different aspects of the campaign, for example, we have this community engagement toolkit that you can download from the site. It's about 17 pages. You can walk through it with your friends. It tells you a bit of the backstory of downtown, what the future possibilities are for downtown, and gets you to think about, like, what is your vision for the future of downtown and how can we get there? And another key part of this toolkit is walking you through the stories of these 16 avatars. I kind of skimmed over a few of those, and Joe's I only went halfway into the amount of detail that we have on her story. But the idea is you read their stories and you think, oh, maybe I identify with that person's story, or actually, you know what, I don't. None of these 16 avatars represent me, and so I'm going to draw my own avatar. I'm going to draw my face and write my own story. And you give us that feedback through the toolkit and through the website. So we're asking, what's your downtown story? There's also all kinds of public engagement happening in real life. So actually, yesterday, today, and tomorrow at Metro Hall, there's the TO Core Expo, which means we have about 40 big information boards in the Metro Hall Rotunda talking about the different kinds of work and research and public engagement that are going into TO Core. And this is a photo from today with the chief planner, Jennifer Kiesmat, there in white, speaking with a few Torontonians as they're looking at this model of downtown. And you can think about the recent growth and the projected growth, and it's really interesting to see it physically represented by this model. Beyond this, there's also like more traditional forms of engagement like events and public consultations, but we also wanted to make sure that that was complemented by a really like versatile set of other engagement activities that made sure we were reaching not just the usual suspects. An example is planners in public spaces. This is when the city planners go out and stand out with clipboards on the street corner, or maybe they have like a tent set up in Phillips Square. And this is Daniel Fusca, one of our colleagues from the city planning team. And he actually took this big board. It's like basically a whiteboard. And you can write in, what's your name? What's like my downtown story? My downtown vision? So his vision is like a vibrant people place with affordable housing, exciting nightlife, and beautiful public spaces. And so his DT advice is, don't forget to make room for nightlife. And then he took a photo in it. And so that's like his own downtown story, just like the 16 avatars. And so if you catch one of these TO Core pop-up engagement moments, you too can have your fun with this kind of thing. So over the last couple months, we've got over 27,000 YouTube views, which isn't like viral, but it's significant given what you typically expect from a lot of public outreach activities online from government. We have over 3,000 tweets with the hashtag DT advice or hashtag TO Core, maybe a few more after tonight if you add your own DT advice. And from that, we found there's about 1,200 unique Twitter users who are really engaging in that. So we know that's still just like a fraction of Toronto, and we need to keep reaching out to more people in new ways as the campaign progresses. These are just a couple of tweets. For example, we have someone says, let's use Toronto's vast ravine system to help move people through the city. Interesting idea. Someone else says, my advice, don't forget about your vulnerable populations. DT is for us all. Love you, DT. And so finally, this campaign is going to continue to roll out over the coming months, and eventually is going to shape planning policy for the future. So we get all this feedback from all kinds of different Torontonians, just through tweets, through things that people have written on those boards, at pop-ups, what people have said at public meetings, and also through some of like the research that the city planning experts and our team is also doing. And so through all this, there'll be hopefully a comprehensive set of policy to guide the future growth of downtown for the coming decades. That's all I have to say for now. So if you want to check out more, you can go to toronto.ca/TOCore and on Twitter, also on other social media, but mostly Twitter is where a lot of the action's happening. There's DT Advice and TO Core, and these are my details down here. I should also just mention, if you're into this stuff, Studio JWall is hiring, and so you'll find out more about that on our website if you want to join our team, or if you know someone who'd be good as a graphic designer on our team. Thank you.
Will you be around for questions?
I'm available for questions.
Okay.
Do you want to do it later?
I think later is probably best. I'm just being mindful of time.
Yep.
So Jay's going to be around.